All right, so it's 3:01 and we definitely have a quorum.
Yep.
So if everyone's okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Just want to remind everyone that this meeting is being recorded and may be played at a future date on WRPS or some other media outlet. First thing up is approval of the meeting, the minutes from the March 24th meeting. Does everyone have a copy of the packet that Donna had sent out and Sean had as well?
Yeah. So moved.
Yeah. Second.
I got a first and a second.
Okay,
Let's
can
do
you tell me, sorry, Rich, can you tell me, because I can't see everyone, who did first and who did second?
All right,
So it was Julie Schaefer who did first, who did the motion, and Jared seconded it.
Okay, thank you.
And let's go around. I'll call everyone out. Jared,
Yes.
Jean Hackett,
Yes.
Doug Lapp.
I'll abstain since I wasn't there.
Okay. Oh, this thing is now moving. Great. Julie,
yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
they start doing it, the list moves. Chris, Bernica,
Yes.
Doug Wallow.
I'm abstaining as well. I missed the last meeting.
Mark Sham,
Here.
Tim,
Yes.
Trish Pierce.
Yes.
All right, and now the question is, did I miss anyone? Because
You missed
for
me.
whatever reason, the list
Me.
keeps moving.
Alan and Michelle, you missed.
Oh, Alan,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
anyone else? All right, good. That was weird. As I started reading it, the list kept researching. I'm like, who did I just call? All right. All right. Next up is review of the cost estimates. Sean, is that you doing that or Lorraine?
Sean was going to do that.
Okay.
On. Sorry, I was muted. We did have a couple pictures of the building just as we're at. I'm not sure where we want to tie those in, Lorraine.
Yeah, we just wanted to give everyone an update as we go through. Again, continue to evolve the design. Some of you may have seen these renderings at the last stage, where the Revit model is in a state where we can't export a truly clean rendering at this point. So some of you may have seen these before, but the Revit model itself is continuing to advance significantly. The one thing you might see on this is the roof screens that we'll talk about a little bit later, but we are showing roof screens around the rooftop equipment. That was discussed at both the MEP focus group meeting as well as at the last building committee meeting. So we can talk about those. Some updated interior shots. Mariana, I don't know if you want to walk through those.
Yes, we have at the top right, we have the cafeteria looking into the stage area, and then we have a shot at the media center, and then at the bottom left, on the bottom right, we have the classroom neighborhood commons with the skylight. This is on the second floor, showing the skylight.
So we'll go into the design development estimate, and I know I sent it out in the email earlier today, but spoiler alert, we are on budget and happy to report that we're on budget. So we will not need to be asking for votes on any value engineering items. However, we will go through the list of value engineering items that we had the estimators look at. And we're going to be continuing to have them look at those prior to submission to the MSBA just to get the numbers a little tighter, but we'll go through that in a minute. But just so people know, as we look at these numbers, we are on our budget, which is great to hear. So I have this broken down into pieces, but this is the overall budget, and the presentation will go into detail so you don't have to squint on your screen. But reminder, our overall project budget was $68,249,754. Here on this side is the description of what the items are. These kind of grayed out columns are the unreconciled estimates, and then over the past 2 days, SMMA and PMA and the estimators locked ourselves in our collective rooms at home and kind of not really battled it out, but we talked about all the different items, and the biggest differences on these are really where the estimators hold the cost. Certain estimators hold things in different areas, not that one's right or the other, but it's really important for us to make sure that we get all of the costs in the correct bucket so that when we're comparing one estimate to another estimate, we're comparing apples to apples. So that's part of the process. And then part of the process is making sure the estimators are both confident in their numbers. And sometimes they'll carry something and they'll agree that they were a little bit high. Sometimes they'll carry something a little bit low. So that really day-and-a-half process, maybe a little longer than that, was to go through every single one of these items with all of SMMA's engineers and with both estimators and PMA in the room to get down to what we call a reconciled estimate. The MSBA requires that the estimates be within 5%. Right now, we are within 0.25% of each other, with the construction cost being within 0.5%. So we're pretty spot on both estimates, and we're pretty confident that we have two independent estimators looking at this design and looking at the cost of the items, and they're both giving us very similar numbers, which is what we want to see. So that being said, we can start rolling through a little bit more detail.
I get one question.
Yep.
So when you go through this process with the estimators, and seeing that it did come so close, what have you found over the last year or two when it actually goes out to bid versus the estimates that are that you actually have going into that project? Are they in the ballpark, or have we continued to see the true costs come in higher than the estimates?
I think it goes both ways. It is just an estimate, and certainly at a DD estimate at this point, it's really early. When in some of the cases we're using square footage numbers on HVAC and things like that. But one of the comments that one of the estimators made is he sees this, honestly, with the COVID shutdown and all that, prices are starting to trend downward a little bit, which is good. So if we hit the bid right, it could be like in 2008 when the market took a dip and everyone got a big savings. Anyone who was out to bid, which I was on a project at Essex Tech, came in way under budget. And then we've been in projects where, Somerville High School came in a little bit over budget. So we do our best to identify this. And unfortunately, the market changes so quickly and rapidly that we could be, we'll estimate it. And then it just really depends at that point in time when this thing goes out to bid, who's hungry for work and who's not. And if there's a lot of people out there hungry for work, we're going to come in under budget. And if it's a really competitive market where everybody's busy, you'd probably trend at or over budget.
Okay.
So we did just have a project I think our Wareham project came in something like $7 million under budget recently. So I think that's part of what the estimators are seeing. And they're taking all of this data from way more projects that either PMA or SMA deals with. They're aggregating all that information, and they're trying to predict the trends of which way costs are going and where they're going to be when we go out to bid.
Thank you.
So the breakdowns here are by, there's divisions that the MSBA requires us to break down by, and it's basically the superstructure, which is your foundations, or your substructure, which is your foundations and any basements that you have. And then you'll see the PM&C, who is PMA's estimator, and the Miyakota, who is SMA's estimator, what their values came in at, and more importantly, what they were reconciled to. And if there's any question of any of these individually, we can go through them. But for the most part, we're under 5% on all of these. And then in aggregate, when you total them all up, we're within 0.5%, which means that we're pretty comfortable with both their numbers, that they were both carrying the same scope. That the drawings were in a condition where they could both accurately pick off the work and describe the work, which is even more, that's one of the parts that goes on to this. If are they both looking at the same scope of work and are the drawings clear enough for them to provide pricing? And us getting that close with the estimates, we're confident that that is the case. So our building subtotal construction costs, we have right around $42 million. And then the next scope, let's see, let's skip over here. These are the direct costs. So these are building demo. These are special construction demo. This is building site work at the Jefferson and the Rockland. So here's all the costs associated with all of that other work. Again, we are with, some of them vary a little bit here and there. The hazmat demo is exactly the same because that's actually a prescribed number by square foot. We give them, I don't think we have enough information about those buildings to accurately estimate what's in there, but we have a good idea. So both of those numbers are estimated by our hazmat consultant, Lorraine, and we provide those numbers to the estimators.
Yep, they have all the information based on the testing they did and the takeoffs that they did. So the hazmat, the industrial hygienists actually provide that based on their industry standard understanding of what it takes to abate and remediate a building.
I mean, that's a little more specific to an actual building, which is why the estimator wouldn't throw a square footage number at it, because they just don't, they don't know what's in it as well as the industrial hygienists do. So they're going to be the industrial hygienist can provide a much better number. So we just have the estimators carry the same number on both of those. So then we have site prep, site improvements. Let's scroll down. And then on both sites, and that's our direct costs subtotals. So it's all the construction costs. And then on top of that is our contingencies, bonds, insurances, general conditions, general requirements, overhead and profit, some escalation. And then we added one line item here for COVID premiums. We are seeing some cleaning premiums, and not knowing where we're going to be a year from now when this breaks ground, we thought it would be a good point now, at least to put in something into the budget to cover those costs. So we put in $300,000, which over the life of the project is what's around $20,000 a month.
Yep.
Which is about what we're seeing for interior construction of the building. But honestly, we don't know, and it would be great if we don't have to spend that money, because anything we don't spend goes back to the district as well. But at this point, this early on, and with a lot of uncertainty around what's going to happen here, we want to carry something and not be blind to the fact that we may be in some sort of scenario where we need additional cleaning or some extra provisions to keep people safe on site.
So I think what a big takeaway here is that we've added that as a contingency, and we're still below budget. So that was something that wasn't in the SD estimate. It wasn't part of our budget at SD. But we're trying to be prudent and to be forward thinking here, because not knowing how the industry is going to change permanently, potentially, to evolve for the situation we're dealing with.
And then on top of that, we have what's called a design and pricing contingency. So that's the money that we allocate for different items that weren't fully vetted in design, for items that come up, for things that just get more expensive as certain industries may just get much more expensive as time goes on, and things we don't have control over. So we do have a bucket of money for that. So as the design develops and as we get more information, there's a buffer in there that we're going to draw that down before we start value managing or taking anything out of the building. And then we have general requirements. Those are for the general contractor, and then their overhead and profit. And then we're carrying some escalation through the start of construction, which is March of 2021. One thing we did talk to the estimators about is the schedule and whether or not extending the schedule would cost more money. And both of them agreed that the shortened schedule is the better option, and it would be more cost effective for the district. Meaning that you start in March and you finish up for the following school year, not try to extend it out until December, which was interesting for us, because we had all kind of had thoughts about the different pieces and components. But I think those overall and generally, I think those items might cost a little more expensive. Like Rich, you talked about moving in furniture, and everybody gets busy during the summer. But when you look at the rest of it and how contractors make their money and how they make their profit, both estimators kind of agreed that they make their profit by getting in and getting out. And by extending the schedule or making it a longer schedule, they're just going to tack on more general conditions. And if you give them a reasonable schedule where they can build that size building within that time, you're better off keeping on that, I guess, the more accelerated schedule from our end. That being said, I'm pretty sure we're still going to be touching up as we're moving furniture in, like we do on every project, but it was good information to hear from the estimators, and it's something that we had talked about asking them specifically about, so that's what we're reporting back. Okay, so that's the overall design, the estimates, and we have all the documents shared on our SharePoint. We can also send out the reconciled estimates if people want to see. I think they're probably about 100 pages a piece. They go into very detail about every piece in the building and all different parts and components. So if anyone's interested, we're happy to share that as well. This is the summary sheet that we'll be sending to the MSBA to certify that we've done the estimate, we reviewed them, and we've reconciled to within 5%.
Sean,
Yes.
it's Julie. The only thing I noticed was the electrical. There was a $3 million difference between the two estimates.
Let's see, where are we at? Initially there was, it was a 2.1 million. And
2 million.
one of the estimators carried the site electrical in the electrical package, and the other one didn't. So that's part of that, making sure we move some stuff around and making sure that the things are where they're supposed to be. So, the site electrical is going to be done by the electrician, but it's from an estimating standpoint, where do you put it, and it's aligning them to. So our reconciled estimate is over here. So this is our final estimate after reconciliation. When we pull those costs out and put them into the correct bucket, so they were both in the same place on both estimators' papers.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the estimate reconciliation? All right. So seeing none, if we can, Rich, if it's all right, we can move on to the value management portion.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right. So the value management, like we said, we're not going to ask anyone. We're not going to ask to vote on anything here. In some of these numbers, we're still going to work with the estimators to figure out why there's some big deltas with. We spent Tuesday from about 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. on the calls, and then another couple hours yesterday. So the priority was, we knew we were going to be at or close to budget, so the priority was making sure that the base scope of work for this meeting was correct and where we needed it to be. We're going to do the same thing with the VM. We just need a little more time to get those numbers lined up. But since we're not asking to VM or value engineer anything out of this project or add anything into the project at this time, we will provide that to the committee as a separate document, and we'll submit it to the MSBA as well. So these 19, or actually 20 items here represent items that we talked about and we asked the estimators to look at for pricing for. So one is the one Lorraine talked about, is those roof screens. These are visual roof screens around that rooftop equipment. So there's quite a big spread here, but there's somewhere between $150,000 and $315,000. So we'll get a better number on that. But if there is money up there, it's something that we highly consider doing. It's a sight line. You're coming down a hill and you're just not looking at rooftop equipment. Are these acoustical as well, Lorraine?
No, these are just visual. And
Just
this
visual,
is one that we'd like to continue to carry as an alternate, as an ad alternate. And, give you the flexibility that if the bids did come in low and you could afford them, if you wanted to have them, you could exercise that. But we need to know that in order to continue that through the design. So when we're finished going through them, we can come back and see if there are any others that want to be dealt with in the same manner.
Yeah, and we can add and deduct from those too, but to Lorraine's point, we want to understand if that's something that the committee really wants to consider. And I think her point is, don't put it in the base scope. We can have what's called a bid alternate. We can have the bidders bid it, and then once the numbers come in, you can choose to do it or not at that point. And the issue with the bid alternate is we can't have 20 of them. It just doesn't really work with public bidding. So if we do go for a bid alternate, we want to pare that down to a manageable amount of numbers. and making sure that we're carrying just the ones that the owner wants. The other ones we can add into the scope, and those will be added, I think, if you need to for budget. So if there's certain items we end up on an estimate that comes in higher, these are some of the items that we're going to talk about to take some cost in. If you come in lower, these are some of the items we're going to talk about adding some cost in. So the roof screens is a big one that we want to consider. Provide a substitute for spandrel panel for metal panel inserts on curtain walls. Lorraine or Mariana, do you want to explain better, more eloquently than I can, what a spandrel panel versus a metal panel is?
Sure. Mariana, do you want me to do it or you want to go ahead? I'll do it. Okay. So when we do our curtain wall assemblies, as we pass through where a floor might cross over or a beam comes through, we generally don't put glass there because you're only either looking at the end of a concrete slab or you're looking at structure. So often what we'll do is insert a spandrel panel, which is an insulated panel, provides some good shading coefficient, but it has a black back on it. So from the front, it looks different than glass, but it's the same assembly. It's the 1 inch thick. It fits into the curtain wall framing. Sometimes what we do is actually do a metal panel insert where we'll get a metal panel and it will have a stud backup and insulation instead. It turns out the stud insert, the metal panel insert, is more expensive than the spandrel, probably because it takes a little bit extra labor. It's different carpenters doing the work versus the glazer putting in the spandrel. So we were just interested in seeing what that cost was to determine would it be a benefit to the project. It has a better look. The metal panel insert can have a better look than the spandrel panel because you can match the color to the color of the frame. But again, based on this cost, it's not something we're recommending, I think, at this point. Right, Mariana?
Whoops. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Trying to get to it. Yeah, and right now I believe we're showing the metal panel. The preference of our designer, Brian Black, was to show it as spandrel, so that's why that was included there.
Yep, I did it the wrong way around, Mariana. Yep.
Okay. So the next one would be to provide to substitute the brick and structural lintel above the gym curtain wall with the composite panel. This is a change in wall assembly type, correct?
Yeah, so we have, you'll remember from the rendering, there's a large expanse of glazing in the gym. Well, there's a section of wall that occurs across that. And we were investigating whether it would be less expensive to substitute that brick and what is a structurally hung lintel to hold that brick up with metal panel and composite wall paneling behind it. It turns out that it is not less expensive. It's incrementally more, but it's not a big dollar amount. But we were considering, just based on construction, would it be a change that was worth taking? It wouldn't look anything aesthetically different from the inside or the outside. So again, this was done in an effort to see was there any cost value without impacting the design or the aesthetic of the building. So at this point, we're going to leave it with the structural hung lintel and the brick above.
This one we're going to take off, and we're not going to have them estimate in the next round.
Correct.
All right. The next one is the change the curtain wall corner assemblies on the classroom pods. This is the one where you have certain classroom pods have those bump out windows on them, and other ones don't. So PMA asked, what does it cost for those? Because sometimes things like that can get rather costly. It turns out we'll get better numbers, but it's incrementally, again, more expensive, and it's a nice feature. It breaks up the building design. It's nice inside the room. It provides almost like it's like a bow window where you get a little bit more depth out of the room. So it's something that if we can keep it, I think we would like to keep it. It's a nice design feature, and from our standpoint, we just wanted to see how expensive it actually was. And for somewhere around $20,000 to $40,000, it's probably something you'd prefer to have than not have. Changes to the clear story glazing at the cafeteria from curtain wall to storefront. This is just how it's assembled and how it goes up. Lorraine, is that correct?
Yeah, so storefront can only go 13'4". Curtain wall goes further. They look different. So the glazing at the cafeteria actually could be storefront, but because it's adjacent to curtain wall glazing, we had designed it as curtain wall. But again, looking to say, we didn't know where the numbers were going to come in, if this was a great cost benefit to go to storefront, which is a sort of a stick-built system and a little cheaper than curtain wall? Would it be a benefit? Again, with the $7,000 credit to the project, knowing what it would do aesthetically next to a curtain wall, this is something we're not recommending and will not carry forward again.
Okay. And the next one is is that aesthetics? It's a type of railing.
It's not aesthetics. This is, we have railings around the courtyard and the roof level, and currently we're carrying up some steel posts to connect those to the structure. This was to go to a ballasted type, so we wouldn't be making all those connections and roof penetrations. Again, because we're on budget and just because of the protective nature of this, we'd prefer the sturdier, connected to the steel. I'm sure a fire department would as well. And we don't see this as a value engineering item that we would recommend.
So you're gonna make roof penetrations for this?
We do make roof penetrations for that. They're
The
like a
high-
pipe penetration, Mark.
Yeah, I think the high school, they're just sitting up there. I'll double check that, but.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have any issues up there, but
Okay.
Yeah, if you can let us know what you have in
Yep.
high school, and we can certainly
maybe
match it if that's the
maybe take a
preference.
peek at it. It's not a game changer.
Okay.
Oh, I keep hitting the button. So this is, the next one is the eliminate planters outside of the room. I know we had talked about this in some of those breakout sessions where, they've had planters before and they just didn't get planted and no one kept them up. So we have one estimator saying it's more expensive to remove them. We have one that says it's less expensive. So this is something we're just going to investigate further.
And I
If
will
it-
say that Mike did reduce the amount of planters. So even the DD set that went out had less planters than what we saw at the site focus group meeting. So he did scale them back. So this is basically to go to nothing. But we do need to reconcile whether it's an add or a deduct.
Yep.
Can I just say, we added some flowers and things to our planters last year. Jane and Alan are obviously on this meeting. I can't see them, but so they should have some input on this also, I would think, because we know what it takes to kind of keep them up. Yeah, okay, you know what I mean? As far as maintenance, it was really expensive, if you remember Jane and Alan. Not
Yeah.
that
There's definitely a cost associated with having the planters. But I also think it's an opportunity for us to partner with some local businesses, and it's the facade of the most expensive building in the entire town. So with that in mind, I think having some planters is a good idea.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying anything. I just want to make sure you had your input, because I know you both were pretty shocked when what it took to do the other ones. That's all. As long as if you're on board, Michelle and you guys are okay. I mean, only reason I bring it up because we just went through it.
Yeah, I think this is one we should carry forward, just because there was definitely talk about the maintenance and all that sort of stuff. So it's something we should consider keeping in or keeping out regardless of cost. It might be more of a decision that the school makes, and we can leave it here as a record of that we're still having those discussions.
Sounds good.
All right. The next one is the eliminate the garden at the front driveway. This is that garden area that kind of sticks out into the traffic calming garden. We got a $55,000 deduct from Miakota, and PMNC was just looking for some more information. Basically, what are you going to put back in there if you take this out? So we'll have that conversation. We'll get a price on that from them. Change all curb from granite to precast. This is something we carry on every single project. It's usually a big ticket item that if you need to VM, it's something you can do. We prefer to have granite curbs. I think most people do. They hold up better over time. They're better against plowing. So we're going to not recommend doing this, but I think we carry the price just because it's a big hitter. So if there's that's why it's here. And then change the resilient playing surface out back to ADA compliant mulch. This is something we don't want to do. It's something we don't recommend. This is something we need to get pricing on because we've got a span from 60,000 to 250,000. So we have to figure out what the real price for that is. But again, these are big ticket items, and we'd much prefer to have if we can afford it, that resilient playing surface is a much better playing surface than the mulch. So the other one is change concrete walkways to bituminous. Again, this is something except for it's required by ADA. So certain ADA ramps require concrete, and we'd have to keep those concrete. This is everywhere else. Looks like there might be a takeoff issue between the estimators. So we'll get those quantities down. But again, this is a $300,000 item. We typically don't recommend it. Concrete walkways are much better. They're more aesthetically pleasing. They hold up better over time than bituminous, which is just asphalt paving. So it's an
Just to
asphalt.
clarify.
Yep.
Sorry, Sean, just to clarify why it must remain at concrete for ADA. You just can't get cross slope level on a bituminous ramp. So we'd never meet the tolerances required by ADA on a bituminous ramp. That's why it needs to be concrete. The walks are one thing, but a ramp, you'll never meet it. It's too flexible.
All right. So in this one, we don't recommend it. We don't typically like to see a school with asphalt walkways all the way around it. But if it is a big ticket, expensive item, so it's something that we're going to continue to look at. And if there's a desire to do it, we can certainly make that change. Increase the asphalt thickness. This increases the parking lots from 3.5 to 4.5 inches. It's a maintenance issue. Holds up better over time. Better loading. All that sort of stuff. So we like to investigate. What are the costs for that? There's a pretty big delta there. So again, it might be just a takeoff issue where what are they carrying for square footage of paving? And we'll talk to the estimators as part of this before we go out to the submit the DD package to get a more realistic number on that. Make sure they're both in alignment. Eliminated folding doors. These are the folding doors in the classrooms out to the pod spaces, Lorraine, is that correct? So so 13A and 13B, when we look at these VM items, sometimes they get a little bit tricky, and it's why we don't give you a total at the bottom. It's because if you take 13A, you can't take 13B, and if you take 13B, you can't take 13A. It's one or the other. So the first one is to eliminate the folding doors and replacing them with the full height storefront. So it's a full height glass window system, so you can still see into the classrooms. And the second one is to eliminate it and replace with half height storefront. So in right now is the folding doors as they're designed. Level 1 reduction would be reduce them with a full height window, or level 2 would be reduce them with the half height window.
But those would be fixed, so they would no longer be operable doors at that point.
Fixed window. It would just be, you'd see from the pods into the classrooms, but you would no longer be able to open them up and open that space out and utilize both of those spaces at the same time. Those we looked at because we knew early on, and SMA mentioned that those are a more expensive item, and you can see that they certainly are. And we just wanted to realize what the cost of those are as we go through design. So I think we'll continue to carry that one as it is a big item, and if it's something that we need to provide some value management here and there, we will do that. So remove 3M. This is the security film from the front entrance. We just wanted to understand what the cost of that was. It's not a big ticket item. We're not recommending that you remove that security film. Masonite in lieu of a wood floor at the stage. I think the wood floor is a better product. It's not significantly more expensive, so I don't think we'd recommend that. Again, this isn't all of these. Some of these are just activities we don't know until we know what the cost difference is. So now we know, and we would not recommend getting rid of a wood floor in the stage. The wood floor is a better system. The overhangs reduced from 8 feet to 6 feet. Lorraine, is that the main entrance overhang, or is that
that's the main entrance overhang?
Okay, so that's we reduced that, pulled that back. We wanted to see what the cost delta to make a smaller overhang there, and at the price as it is, it's something we could still consider, but the bigger overhang is just a nicer architectural feature, and it's better. On a rainy day, you get more people standing out front. There's more room for people to kind of stand under, congregate, and stay dry. Eliminate the classroom soffits. This is a big delta, so we need to talk to the estimators and understand what each of them carried for this scope of work as well.
Yeah, it's not 215. That's not right.
Okay. Do you want to explain a little bit what the scope of work or the idea behind this change is, Lorraine?
So the soffit at the front, the overhang at the front covers both the entry doors, but then also carries down towards the classroom section of the front elevation. So the first one, 16, I can't see the number, I have the screens on top of it. 16 was to shorten it at the front entry vestibule, and 17 was to eliminate it off the rest of the face as you move down.
Okay.
Again, it provides an architectural feature. It really frames the front of the building. It's not something we're recommending, but it was, just trying to understand. We didn't know where we'd end up and having options to discuss. So.
Okay. And so the 18 is an add. It's for new fencing, backstop, and benches for the girls softball field. We wanted to get a price, and we'll continue to carry a price for this. I think this might be either something that we move to the base scope or something that we add as the first alternate, right?
This has always been the first alternate. So this has
Okay.
been in since SD.
So this will be continued to be carried. And then the next one is linoleum flooring in lieu of rubber flooring. So during the interior design sessions, there was a lot of conversations about floor and floor maintenance and overall building maintenance. And there was a request to upgrade the linoleum flooring that we had originally carried to a rubber flooring system. So when we did that, made that upgrade, we wanted to understand what the cost of that upgrade actually is. So we are going to continue to carry that cost into the next phase, and we'll continue to carry this as a value engineering item. But right now, it fits within the budget. The rubber flooring is a much lower maintenance system, and Mark, you can speak about it probably more eloquently about me. You don't have to wax it. It's much easier to maintain, and it's a better product. It's a better flooring system. So you know, that interior group had a lot of discussion about this, and coming out of that, there was a request made to see what the rubber flooring is. So we put it in as the base scope with this deduct alternate. All right. Is there any question? Oh, Mark, I just saw Mark unmuted himself.
Well, I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, if anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. It's a whole different system. It's a really, really great floor. I know Lorraine helped me look into it. I read a bunch of spec sheets, cut sheets. I talked to the manufacturer. I actually didn't speak to him, but I had emails back and forth. I did a lot of research. And Lorraine, you could pitch in a little bit for me. I can't see anything wrong with it. It's a great floor. It's going to last a long time, and it looks fantastic.
So we're a fan of both rubber and linoleum. I will say that many districts, even though linoleum is supposed to be maintenance free, many districts end up waxing it, like your district, because you just find that it's really hard to keep it clean over time. It is more porous. Rubber is a very durable product. It needs to be cleaned, but it does not need to be waxed. So long term, you will be saving on operational and maintenance costs with respect to not having to strip this floor and re-wax it every summer and the work that goes in with that. So it is a value engineering, and I would just want to remind everyone, value engineering is not always to cut costs. It's to increase the value of your product and increase the value of your job. And as we are on budget with rubber in the base right now, it is something that we would recommend continuing forward with. Again, we'll keep it on the list. We still have 2 more estimates to go, 60% and 90% construction documents. But so a lot of these items will get revisited and repriced at those 2 estimates. And as long as we remain on budget, I think long-term benefit for the project, you're better off having it in as rubber.
So I have one question on that. So maintenance on that, the cleaning of it, can an auto scrubber be used on the rubber floor?
Yes, it can.
Okay.
Mark, Sean, are these different floors than we have in the high school at the moment?
The high school floors are almost like linoleum floors that are like Lorraine explained. Supposedly a maintenance-free floor. Obviously, over time, they are maintenance-free for maybe 2-3 years. Don't quote me on that, and that depends on your traffic, obviously. And then, as you could talk to Ed Laughlin would know too, because he was there from day one. But you can see they wear, and then if you don't put a finish on them, they'll wear right through. So that the floors at the high school look great just because we strip them and we dry strip them and we finish them. It's a lot of work. And it's not only the floors isn't I'm not trying to save work. It's not really, it's a purchasing of the stripper and the wax along with the manpower. It's really costly. I mean, and you get a decent looking floor. This rubber floor has its own special pads that go on the machine that Rich just mentioned, and they have a pad system, and there's no stripper, there's no wax, and you just clean it with this. I think there were either numbered pads or colored pads, red pad, blue pad, black pad, or number 4, number 6. But my point is, it's no wax. And they were paying almost $100 for a 5-gallon bucket of wax. I mean, it's really, really expensive to keep up those floors. And not only that, the rubber floors, they had they were spectacular looking. There are all kinds of designs that you could do, Lorraine, right? Nothing crazy, but you have the potential of having a pretty floor if you want that, or a plain floor. I mean, it isn't like you're locked into like a piece of flat rubber one color. That was my end. Okay.
Correct.
All right, hope I answered that for you.
All right, is there any other questions on the value management stuff?
So the one question I would like to understand is, should we continue forth with the visual screens as an ad alternate? Because that does need to be part of the design for structural. They do need to post up to carry that screen on the building structure, and it is something that we need to design in, which we're happy to have that as part of the design and to list it as an alternate. But we'd want to know now as we start the CD phase. And it can remain as an alternate, so that, you know, if the bids come in and you want to accept it, you can.
I mean,
Since it was never.
I think you're better off carrying it in there. That's just my opinion. It's not a huge money item. I think it's a need. It's a great thing to have. In fact, I don't know what anyone else can speak up, but that's just my opinion. Again, I don't see it being big money. If you built it in, I think you'll get a better bang for your buck. Any thoughts on that?
I'm wondering, does it make sense to do to have the posts or whatever they connect to in the base scope, and then have the screens themselves as the alternate, so that even if you don't, I don't know, there's two sides. Like, you can always put them in later without cutting your roof, but then the question is, if you don't have them when it starts, are you ever actually going to put them in? And oftentimes the answer is no.
More often than not, that answer is no.
Yeah. Okay.
I personally don't have a problem carrying it. I think, you know, we're at where we need to be budget wise. It's not a lot of money, and if it comes back to being a lot of money, we can take it out later, but I think we should carry it.
Great.
I agree with that, particularly at this where we are budget, you know, as an ad alternate. If we find that the bids are coming in higher than we thought, we can always make that change at that point in time.
How do those roof screens hold up to the wind?
Oh, they hold up just fine. They're tied to the building structure. They have brace backs. They don't go all the way to the bottom of the roof, so there's always room for the air, so they don't involve pressure.
Okay.
Hey, Sean, this is Doug. Can I ask a question about a different item?
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you said this, but you were going quick, so I just wanted to make sure I got it right. Item 14, the 3M security film. That's like probably one of the only things that I feel really strongly about. So I just want to make sure that that's staying in.
We're not asking to remove that. Yeah.
Right.
We wanted to know what it costs, but at this point we know, and if it's something that the school desires, so we'll take it off the list for future VE.
Personally, just based on my experience, I would urge us to keep that. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a ton of money. I don't see any benefit to removing that. But I see a big benefit in having it. Okay, is there anything else on the VE or the budget?
I think we're good.
All right. So with that, so we are looking forward tonight a vote for based on those estimates and based on the design of that has been presented in this and other meetings, a vote on the building. And one of the items in your packet is a DESI letter. Anytime you change anything, any design in the building surrounding the special education spaces, you are required to submit again to DESI and tell them basically what you have changed. So I put in the whole packet with the letter that was very descriptive, but for purposes of this meeting, SMMA has provided a drawing set, which is also in that package, which really just shows you what we had before and what has changed. So just highlighting the changes to that special education. So if Mariana, if you want to go through and just in general show them what we're talking about here, we just want everyone to be comfortable with the changes to the DESI space. They've already been reviewed in detail by Alan and Michelle, and there's someone else who signed that letter whose name escapes me right now. But this is all kind of par for the course, but we don't want to go in with these spaces have been slightly altered, and we want to make sure that everyone's aware of the alterations that have been made.
Yeah, the alterations were consequence of the programming meetings that we have during the day with the special ed teachers. Some of the more dramatic changes are coming on the rooms that require the de-escalation areas. They wanted a three-phase escalation where, you know, there's a desk first where the kid is not looking at the classroom. Then there's a quieter space, like a transition space so that it cannot see into the classroom. And then there's a, let's call it a nook where it's really isolated, and we'll put some acoustical improvement so that the kid can really quiet down. There will be soft seating there, just like a bean bag or so that's basically what in the biggest change on this package. The next, you know, and that is on TLC 1A, on elementary practical academic life skills 1E.
So these are de-escalation spaces inside of
Yeah,
those
we
special
added
education rooms.
de-escalation spaces to those rooms.
Right.
So,
So it's for kids that are having issues that day, that they can be moved into a separate space away from the general classroom population so they can have a chance to calm down by themselves, right?
yes, these are kids that have either emotional behavior issues and they need time to kind of recenter themselves and cool down. So they isolate them from the rest of the class. It also helps them calm down, you know, forget about all the kids are watching them and all those things, and just center on themselves and calm down. That is the main purpose of that. Oh, you move the...
Oh, hold on a second, I'll go back. Keep clicking the button. All right, there you go.
Okay, the other rooms that changed, that it was like a big area, square footage change, where the small groups, we created two types of small groups, type A and type B. On the pods, you can see there, they repeat along the pods. And basically what we did was we increased the area of those rooms a little bit because we have the square footage on the circulation, and we rather assign it to the rooms themselves. And the teachers expressed that they needed to have space for having the posters and materials that they use. So that's we said, since we're gonna resubmit, let's take advantage of the space that we have there. Then another big change that happened was we added a speech room near the toilets in the center by the entrance. Yeah, that was, we realized during these programming meetings that we were missing some rooms that you needed. So we added this room to complement the area. And we added it here so that it spread well across the school. Those were the big areas that changed.
So just a point to note, this does not change the gross square footage of the building at all. So all of these changes occur within the exterior walls. So this is not making your building any bigger. It's actually improving the utilization. And so as Mariana pointed out on the small group rooms A and B, they used to be 120 square feet. Now they're 150 and 135, simply by pushing that wall into the corridor a little further and giving the benefit to the classroom space as opposed to the corridor space. So it doesn't take anything away from the neighborhood commons. It's just taking some net from gross, but the overall building square foot is still the same size as previously approved by the MSBA.
And then this is the second floor. Is it similar changes here?
Yes, the second floor is a similar change. Is the same, you know, they transfer from the first floor with the exception of the elementary practical academic life and skills. We changed to the layout a little bit so that we placed a toilet room nearby. That was a request. They wanted to have access to a toilet nearby. So the layout changed a little bit to include that. And that's the only, you know, change that is different from the first floor.
Are there any questions from anyone on the committee about these changes? Like I said, they came out of sub working groups with the teachers and the staff. So they've been vetted by the educational department, and they're being presented to you as because the building has changed a little bit, and we want to make sure we're everybody's aware of what's going on and what's being submitted. Okay. So if there's any questions about the DD package or anything like that, we can take them now. Otherwise, if the chair wants to entertain a motion to vote to submit the DD package to the MSBA with the DESI changes included, at that point we will we'll spend the next week packaging up all of the drawings that we've done, all the review comments, and all of this other information in the estimates, and we'll get it over to the MSBA sometime first week of March.
I'll look, take a motion.
I make a motion to submit the package to MSBA.
A motion by Chris Bernica.
I'll second.
Who was that who seconded?
I did, Julie.
Julie Schaefer seconded it. Let me go through. We'll do a roll call. Alan Cron,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Doug, Wallow,
Aye.
Doug Lapp,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Mark Sham,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Trish.
Yes.
Did I get everyone? Hey, there we go. That's unanimous.
All right.
This is a
Very good.
challenge.
Thank you.
All right. One item that we're going to carry now, moving on, is just our invoice register review. Last meeting, you voted Alan and Rich to be able to sign off on these for the Treasury Department. But just as a matter of course, it makes sense to show the committee what the bills are this month. They are all as scheduled and all as prescribed per the OPM and the design team's contracts. So we're lump sum billing, except for a very small portion of the architect's efforts around the MIPA and the ENF filings. So we vetted all of the costs. This is the invoice register that is going to go into the treasurer, assuming that Alan signs it. There is no vote required by this committee. I don't believe the motion to vote is required because the last meeting you did away with that. But we want to just present these to the committee, and if there's any questions, we can field them as part of this meeting.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Since you triggered my memory with that MIPA filing, did whatever became of that, was that for the traffic study at the Eston?
No, so the MIPA filing was an environmental notification form that was required as part of the Article 97 land swap. That was submitted last Wednesday, the 15th, whatever date that was. I'm losing track of the days, obviously. Marianne, I'll tell you. Last Wednesday. So that was filed with MIPA last Wednesday. It'll be advertised in the Environmental Monitor. It should have come out today. We've issued our distributed copies to everybody. And then there'll be a comment period where anybody has 20 days to comment. And after that, 10 days after that, MIPA will issue their certificate. We're not expecting anything other than proceed as part of our certificate. But we did have to do an in-depth analysis to demonstrate to them why this site was the site that should have been had an Article 97.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else?
Since we're on the topic, I would just like to extend a sincere appreciation to Doug Lapp. Doug is pulling a rabbit out of a hat for us and is working with us to get all of our permitting back on track in these times where everyone's working from home. So as you may recall, we have a ZBA variance to get through. Working with Bob Galvin, we have confirmed that the variance is only for size, not quantity. there was some confusion around that, and we were able to get that sorted out. So we're submitting our variances. We're getting our permitting back on track. We have a new schedule that I'll issue to Sean that he can distribute. We are going to do virtual meetings with your town committees and boards. We are going to do hard copies, and Chris had noted that Candy has offered that if we FedEx them to Town Hall, she'll deliver the packages to the board members' houses. I mean, we're always concerned to privacy, and there's, how do we get something to a town member's house without giving out their address? So I just want to say, Doug, we know that you are 100% consumed with everything COVID-19 and managing other processes right now. So to spend that time to help us get this back on track, we really appreciate it.
You didn't have to say that, but no problem. The schedule is critical for a lot of reasons, especially costs. So I'm glad we were able to sort it out. No problem.
Thank you.
Way to go, Doug.
All right. There was an item to review meeting minutes. Is that for this meeting, or is that was that a double count from the previous
No,
meeting?
I think that was a double.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was yeah.
All right. And then any unanticipated items?
None that I'm aware of. Nope.
I guess under that, is there, I don't see any members of the public in here, so I'm not sure if there's any public comment. And as far as next steps go, this is just a snippet from our schedule, which is a horrible resolution. I'll figure out how to do that better than the next one. But as we said, we're going to finish up the DD package, which is going to get sent to the MSBA. Right now, we have it scheduled for May 11th. So SMA will be finishing up all of their work. They'll be sending it, compiling it, send it over to us. We'll be doing our cursory review before we submit it to them. And then as soon as we're ready to go, we're not going to hold off until the 11th. As soon as we're comfortable that everything, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, it will go over to the MSBA. They have a 15-day review period. So we will get comments back from them sometime late May, maybe early June. And then we'll have 10 days to respond. Like most of the, I think we've talked about this before, most of the comments we're very capable of dealing with. A lot of the times, there's nothing major in there. All the comments will be sent out, they'll be distributed to the committee. If there's anything that we feel is a more major issue, we may call a meeting or ask for people to kind of discuss them. If not, we will draft our responses and we'll send everyone on the committee what our responses will be. We've done, I think, enough of these that we know what the standard questions are. We know what the standard comments are going to be, and we're very capable of quickly responding within that 10-day period to them. So then after the submission on May 11th, or probably even sooner than that, SMA is going to get moving on the next phase, which is their 60% design set. I think, looking at Lorraine, I think she's probably already started on it, but
no, once we submit to you the DD package, we go straight into construction documents.
So that's a 40 working day process, and our next estimating set is due to the estimators early June. That's June 6, 2020. They'll have 3 weeks to get their estimates together, and then we'll do the same thing that we did this week, spend a day to 2 days in a room, hopefully together, but maybe virtually again, reconciling the estimates, and we will and then we'll come back and have a very similar meeting where we're going to go through the estimates, and we're hopefully going to report that we're still on budget.
And just, that's July, not June. Don't give us all a heart attack.
Yes,
Lorraine, and you are gonna kill me.
I have the VE reconciliation for July 27th. Yes, that's correct. And so estimating set is due, it's May 11th to July 3rd. And then the estimating period is from July 6th to July 24th. And then our reconciliation will be the following week, sometime during that week. And then the next submission to the MSBA will be early August. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question, Sean?
Yes.
Is MSBA still sort of meeting on their schedule? Are they still,
yes,
obviously our point on the town side, we're keeping on track. Are they still on schedule and on track themselves?
They are. For projects that are in the pipeline right now, they've expressed that there's no changes. All their monies and their grants are funded. So when they fund a project, they are basically certifying to you that they have the money in their system. I think the challenge with the MSBA is going to be for future projects and how many of those they can fund. depending on what happens with the, they're funded from the tax base. So depending on how much sales tax we have. But we've been told from the MSBA that if you're already in the pipeline, which you already are, and you already have your project scope and budget, which you already do, there are no perceived changes right now.
Right.
They did
But
also
they're still
say,
holding.
oh, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just saying, they're still holding their meetings in their normal time frame for us as well. Okay.
And the other thing is they have stated at this point that they don't pay for acceleration costs. So it's more of what's happening on the job sites now. They're talking, people are asking, you're going to pay for the cleanups, you're going to pay for the shutdowns and things like that. It's excluded from their grant. So I don't know if they're going to come out with another grant program or something like that. But at this point in time, they don't have anything in place. They are investigating it. They're looking at it. But as far as those, we carry that COVID contingency in our budget. I would not expect the MSBA to fund that at this point. But it's just going to be part of our budget and part of our job.
Hey, Sean, this is Doug. Can I just mention two things real quick? One is I was on a conference call with the Department of Revenue today, and they confirmed exactly what you just said about the MSBA funding. If you're already approved, you're already in the pipeline, you're good. It's really for new projects with new statements of interest that are likely going to be in some jeopardy. So the Department of Revenue confirmed that. So that was good. The other thing I just wanted to ask, I know we had a meeting about this a while ago, but I can't remember exactly what we said. Like now that we've approved these invoices to be paid, or that we've previously authorized Dr. Cron and Rich to sign, we didn't have to approve it today. Just remind me mechanically, are they being emailed right now? Is somebody walking something over? I just want to make sure nothing falls through the cracks on the invoices.
Dr. Cron, last one, you signed it and you just drop it off at Town Hall?
We scanned it in, and that's how they wanted it. That's how Biz and Serena wanted it. They wanted us to scan it in with the signature, and we sent it over. Through email.
Are you emailing it directly to Biz and Serena? Is that what you're doing?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's getting to the right people. All right, thank you.
All right, so Alan, I'll send you over a clean copy of that outside of the meeting minutes, so it'll be a standalone document just for ease of management.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean.
All right. Yeah.
All the comments on the DD set drawings, are they going to be captured by May 11th, or are they going to be brought into the 60% drawings? Or are we going to discuss some of those comments?
So those will be captured and they'll be submitted to the MSBA as part of the DD set. And as part of the 60%, the SMA, the architect, will review all of those comments for incorporation into it. We're going to have additional working group sessions, so there'll be a point to discuss any comment in there.
And we were already picking up some of them, and they have been included in the DD. So some of them were sort of very simple, no-brainer comments, and other ones might need some more conversation.
All right, you saw most of the comments?
Yep, I've been in there.
Okay,
yep.
good.
So I'll get you a copy of those too, Mark, so you have a record of all your copies, of all your comments, so we can you can highlight the ones that we really need to make sure we look at and going into the 60% set.
And Mark, just so you know, once Sean downloads it into Excel, we will actually type in a response to every single comment, whether or not, incorporated into DD, will be incorporated into CDs, needs further review. So it's not like it goes into an abyss and you've done all that work and you've put all the comments on the set and, you're crossing your fingers. We will actually address every single comment.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. That's all I have, Rich.
All right, Sean, thank you. Thank you for all the details. At this point, we'll plan on our next meeting for the third Thursday in May. At this point, we'll wait to set a date, set a time. If we are back that we are able to meet live, then we will do it at 6 o'clock at night. If we're still doing remote meetings, then we'll set it up, doing it by Zoom again. We'll probably end up doing it during the day, depending on everyone's schedule. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Got a motion by Chris.
Second.
Sorry, who was that second from?
Emily.
Second by Emily. I will do a roll call again. Alan,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Ashley,
Yes.
Doug Wallow,
Yes.
Doug Lapp,
Yes.
Emily,
Yes.
Jared,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
and Trish.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. That's it. Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Be safe.